Hey there, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be discussing how we feel about things, how we feel about our financial situation, how we feel about our relationships, our husbands, our wives, and how that is also playing a big part in the results and the outcome that you're getting. All right, let's start it. Now, of course, everyone has problems. Nobody has problems, but problems are a learning opportunity. It's what they are. It is a learning opportunity to let me know what is going on inside of me, what is going on inside of you. And they're for ourselves to fix. They're for us to fix. It's not you right? You're never given more than you can handle. But you are given what you need to learn. And that's what these are. Learn to look at problems as opportunities, because that's exactly what it is. One of the bigger misconceptions is that we take everything at face value. We take everything without really looking deeper. Sometimes we do, but not often and not deep enough. Because if what I said pertains to you and it applies to you, of all the problems, you can't catch a break. Why does this always happen to me? Of course, that's what happened, and we get into these moods and these bad moods, almost pessimistic, and you're watching the believers all the time. But what is happening? Say this to a believer that is suffering from different illnesses and different disease or different physical bodies in their body. In 1 Peter 2:24, at the end of the verse, it says, "By whose stripes ye were healed." And it's talking about the Lord. And he died on the cross for our sins. But by his stripes, you were healed. You were. That means that person that is ill, which might be you, were already healed. Well, the question then becomes, why? Where is it? What's going on? Why don't I see it? And the problem is the perception that we have concerning that. It is the perception that we have that determines how we're going to feel about something and how that will then play out in our life. Now, how often are you taught about that? Well, let's look at this little verse here. Matthew 13:12. "For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he has." Why is that? Do we ask the question why that is? Well, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. No, that's not why. Everything has to do with the mentality. We are all exactly the same. You may not believe so, but we are all exactly the same on the inside. The spirit being that we have, this is just a tool. The body, all the body is a tool of the mind. And that's all it is. And when you begin to understand what I'm about to tell you right now, hopefully it'll liberate you from the way you immediately take a perception of something. It'll help you shift how you see things, and what you see will change. Now, why is that with the man that whosoever has, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance? Why is that? Well, if you ever know this, when you have, and maybe some of you haven't had, it's been a while, but if you have, let's say you have an extra $10,000 in your bank, $5,000 in your bank, whatever you need that's not accounted for, that is free money to spend on what you'd like. Some people are going to sock it away for a rainy day. Well, that's a bad idea. You're already expecting a rainy day, right? And we were taught that as children, not knowing that we were preparing for the bad thing to happen, right? Well, God supplies all my needs, so I don't have to do something like that. There's more, and don't dive into it so quickly. Just listen to what I'm saying. When you have that extra, you feel good, you feel alleviated, you feel relieved, but you feel good. And because you feel good, that perception, that feeling that you have, then brings more of that same thing. It adds more of that same feeling. When you feel like you don't have, he that has not, from him shall be taken away, even that which he has. Because he's dwelling in that feeling. And that feeling, in order to have the feeling, I have to have the thought. Whether I consciously think about it or it just flies into my head and immediately resonates with where I've been before. Like, some people hear the word racist. It doesn't even have to be a racist situation. They hear the word racist and they're already flying into a racist thing, right? They're already ready to defend it because it's in there. The whatever they've experienced, even if it can be for generations, it's in there. When we see our money down, we feel bad. We feel, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And you start turning your wheels and it doesn't come up with a solution. You can't come up with a solution like that. And some people feel the more they get on it and the more they stress out, the more. It's not until you really look for an answer, but the answer will come in a different way if you really understand what I'm trying to say to you. The Lord said, "Come to me, all that are burdened and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Well, where is he? Inside, right? The kingdom's inside of you. He dwells where? Inside of you. That's where the kingdom is. That's where the Lord is, right? Christ in you, the hope of glory. On the outside, you have a problem. You feel it in your physical being. Your conscious mind, the part that is listening to me right now, is dwelling in the physical being on the edge, noticing the things. The more things you notice on the outside, the more you are in tune with the physical being. The more you are spiritually aware, the less you are aware of all the physical things that are going on around you, and the less worry you have. Remember, Jesus was on a ship in the middle of a storm, and he was asleep. Why? Because he's in a spirit being. There's no worry on the outside. There's nothing on the outside that's going to affect you, if you understand where I'm going with this. See, this is one of those things that he that has an ear to hear, let him hear, because I can't give it to you just plainly all the time. You have to start making the connections. And that's when you start making the connections, you climb up. You're climbing up. I'll often say, you don't receive revelation, you walk up into it. You climb up. Revelation is always there. We have to climb into it. It's always there. Come to me, all that are burdened and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Close your eyes. Whatever that problem is you have, close your eyes and see the opposite of that. See the opposite. See if it's your bill, it's paid. By his stripes, you are healed. You're healed already. Why can't you receive it? Like I said, say it to a believer. And they're like, I've said it to believers, and they're just like, I've said to believers that are suffering from, the doctor said they're suffering from heart disease, they need stents, they need their blood's clotting, and they'll sit there and go, yeah, right. They don't even believe it. They look at the verse there and they disqualify that verse. So they're looking at the word like a buffet, and they're just taking what they want, and they can't wrap their mind around it. The more we are dwelling in the physical being that realizes it's naked and needs to be clothed, the more we are away from the spirit aspect. What does the Lord say to the people? He says, you have a saying, 3 more months and then the harvest. But look at the fields. They're white and ready. Where is he seeing it from? In here. In his mind, in the screen of your mind. When you close your eyes, you can see the opposite. Sometimes you can't. If you can't, that usually means you've been beaten down so much that you can't see beyond the problem. You're drowning in it. But everyone can see the opposite, right? Because it's the opposite. Faith and fear are the opposite sides of two things. But I can't grasp what I need. I can't come to him even though I'm burdened and heavy laden, because I don't believe that. So I can't find it. I can say, and this is not the same thing, I just put it in God's hands. And then you just don't want to stress about it. You don't want the stress of the feeling. I just put it in God's hands, and you turn away and you don't want to even think about it. You just, well, don't do that. You can put it in God's hands. That's not going to give you the same result, because God works to and through you. You are molding in your mind the end result of what you're expecting. It's up to God to see how he's going to get you there. Right? The woman that touched the hem of his garment, she knew that if she could just do this was going to be the result. If I could do this would be the outcome. Well, in amongst the realm of believers and Christians, there is a lot of uncertainty. We don't know if we should ask. We don't know. We will ask. We do know if we can ask, but we are uncertain if God's going. Well, God, if it be your will. No, we're not. We're not like Jesus going to the cross in that sense to die for the whole world that's about to be separated from his Father for the first time. He's going to have a disconnect for the first time ever and forever, right? We're not in that situation. We're already in the disconnect. So we don't even have that as a question. When God gives you an idea, he gives you the ability for the fulfillment of that idea. He supplies all our needs. That's a guaranteed supply of all our needs. You have to understand that there is the prodigal son. The prodigal son left and took a certain portion of what he thought was his inheritance. And the father gave it to him and he walked away and he blew everything else and he came back, right? The other son that was there also had a problem. He did the right thing. He stayed around his father, but he wondered why his father had never made a feast for him and his friends. And the father's like, hey, you've been with me this whole time. Haven't you already known that what is mine is yours? What's mine is yours. Go ahead. We don't realize that. We do not have that conscious awareness, and the Lord is the one giving us this parable. That son had a trouble too. He never realized how close he was to God. He never realized how close there he was with the Father, intertwined with the Father. I and my Father are one. And so God is our Father. He supplies all our needs. He's always going to supply all our needs if we bring it to him. But if we're always looking on the outside, we're not going to get it. By his stripes, we were healed. What does that mean? That means that I have to be able to see that. I have to be able to understand that. I have to look at. We had a lady who was suffering from end-stage breast cancer, and they basically told her there was nothing they could do for her, and they're going to send her home to die. And she was in a really critical situation. She had to learn to see herself already healed, already have receiving this. If you tell yourself a lie long enough, you'll believe it. And a lot of people do. I'm sure we all know somebody who's told themselves a lie. They'll recollect something that took place, and that's not the way it took place because you were there and you knew what happened. But they'll tell that story every single time with conviction, as though that's what really took place. There is a reason why that works, because this is a truth. And we can wedge the truth in there the same way. And so she had to be able to see that she was one, God's highest form of creation. She's God's highest form of creation. There is nothing else greater than the creation that you are, because God made you in his image and in his likeness. You can't get above that. So one, she had to realize that. Two, her DNA is perfect. Why? Because that's the way God made it. Why? Because by his stripes you were healed. Her DNA was absolutely perfect. Because by his stripes she was healed, she was well, and she was healed. And she went over that in her mind over and over until she could clearly see it. And then she was there in her mind. And guess what? As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And bling! Took her about 6 weeks. 6 weeks she went from end-stage breast cancer to 100% whole, looking like nothing ever happened. Doctors were floored. They didn't know what took place. And this is how it happens. But you can't get, there's no like a formula that you're going to follow. But there is what you're going to learn and take in. Because you can say you know something. Look at, I know, you know, we all know we can turn on the TV this Saturday, Sunday, and we can watch a football game. And we can watch it and we can know the game. But we are not on the caliber level. We do not know how to play that game the way they play that game. Maybe at some point we could play the game with our friends, but on that level, we don't know. And a lot of times in America, especially, America sometimes is leading the train wreck. We believe that our way of thinking is sometimes equal to the person that is doing whatever job they're doing. And it's not. Because if it was, we'd be there. We didn't make the same decisions and the choices they did to get where they're at. And some of them may have been bad, but we're not perfect either, right? So we all make bad decisions and good decisions, but some people make decisions to go further and beyond the realm of what they know. I say that because until we get it on the inside of us, until we really get it deep in there and really know it, it doesn't show up in your physical being. So it has to penetrate in there with a conviction that you know this. I walk by faith, not by sight. That means I'm walking by that picture, that image, what I know to be 100% sure. And I am so sure of it, I'll stop on a dime. It's over. I know that. I don't have to know anything else. Christians don't have that. A lot of them, they're very, listen to the prayers, listen to the messages, and you'll see the overwhelming evidence of uncertainty, not knowing if God will do, not knowing. And like I said, if he's going to give it to you, he's going to allow you to have it. They don't know. How do they approach him for it? They approach him and they ask, and they keep on asking and asking and asking. Why do they keep asking? Why do they keep asking? Because they don't see it with their physical eyes. It's already there. By its stripes you were healed. It's already there. What are we looking for? Well, I don't got it here. So I'm going to continue to ask. You already got it. Be grateful. Have gratitude. Feel that. Be there. And the Lord gave thanks. And he sat them down and he gave thanks. And he said, fill the jars with water. And before he said, fill the jars with water and draw some out and serve it to the man in charge of the wedding, charge of the feast, he gave thanks. It's very important that you understand that there's an image in the mind. And that image in the mind of the outcome is vitally important. The Lord said, my Father works and I must work also. We're talking about some of these things. This is one of the aspects that you have to understand. The idea that your money is, you have more than enough money and you feel good. And so you get more abundance. Or the idea that your money is low and you don't know how that's going to happen. And the image in your mind is worry and doubt. It's anxiety. It turns into anxiety when it gets into your heart. That's where anxiety comes from. Worry and doubt impressed upon the heart is anxiety. Anxiety is the fear and doubt being expressed to and through the body. That's all it is. I mean, think about that. How many of you guys feel anxiety? That's what it is. It's fear being expressed to and through the body. That's what anxiety is. And after a while, a person just kind of gives up and they start to feel depressed. People aren't depressed just because randomly being depressed. They're depressed because of what they're thinking and what they feel, how they feel about what they're thinking. And then they go through the whole rigmarole and impress it onto their soul, onto their heart, their being, and then express it to and through the body. Now, this may be a difficult lesson to learn, but it is vitally important that you can see what is going on. Use your mind to think. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Use your mind to think. Focus in on that. Ask God. Ask one time. Because the minute you ask, before you speak, he's heard. Before you've asked, he's already answered. By his stripes, you were healed. And so if by his stripes I was healed, then that's already there. The problem is I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And believe is so huge. We can say we believe it, but if we believe it, then it's there. Once we believe it, it shows up. But we don't believe it. And the evidence that we don't believe it and we don't know it is that the problem is still there. Whether it's financially, whether it's in your physical being, whether it's in your relationship, that is the evidence that you don't have it and you don't believe it. So work on those things, because we skip past that like we got those in the bag and we don't have them in the bag. We do not have them in the bag. Anyways, that's pretty much it for today. Let the answer sink in. And that's what I'm talking about. Let the answer sink in. The answer has to sink in. The answer has to sink in. Unless the answer sinks in, you will not get it. You are basically just tossing it up there, especially if you're the kind of person that says, I'm going to give it to God and I'm just going to look the other way. That's not exactly the way that works. I got to see where I'm going. I got to see where I'm going. I got to see what I'm doing. You're the one driving your ship. It is all in your decisions, not God's decisions, your decisions. It is, you have the will. You make the choices. You're doing it. And it's up to you to get in harmony with God. You know, if you get a ship out there, you put it in God's hand and you just go and look the other way, it doesn't work. It's like getting a ship and putting it out in the harbor and have no captain and no crew, and just letting it go and see where, if it ends up where it's going to end up. It'll be lucky if it even makes it out of the harbor, right? But where is it going? Well, we don't know. So that's kind of that thought. Anyways, again, here's this book, Let the Answer Sink In. You can find it on Amazon. There'll be a link in the description. God bless. Thank you for following and sharing and liking. Thank you very much.